you and I are going to get high somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm going to find something, and it's either going to be authentic or it's going to be counterfeit.
It became like, I love the practice and it's taught me so much, but like you said, I can abuse anything. And I have certainly abused yoga, whatever, so
I've often thought that the best way for the world to heal would be everyone be required to wear a small a hat that has a video playing on it of the worst shit that they ever did. Don't you think that would like bring everybody down closer?
Really level the playing field there. Yeah.
Hey there, and welcome to the Recovery Crew here at Deep Waters Recovery. I'm Dr. Bob Baer, and we have the honor, the privilege, the pleasure of having Monica LeBansky on our show today. Monica has really transformed her life, and she's going to tell that story. She's found a way to bring that deeper way of living, that honest way of living into her life. And yoga's been a big part of it. She says that it's not the cure, it's not the big answer, but it's been a big part of her journey. And we all need to find something that we're passionate about, something that we have juice about, something that has meaning. That's one of the components of staying sober and healing the trauma. We've also got to fill in those places that we used to use when we were out there being less than stable with all those activities filled a lot of our psyche. You have to find something meaningful in life in order to find complete stability. None of us are completely stable, but we do have to find something that balances out that place that we've cracked open inside of us by working on our trauma and by letting go of the dependencies that we used to inject into our body, either actually with a needle or by trying to find that perfect person or trying to get enough stuff or whatever the thing is that we were leaning on. When we've had the courage to start letting go of that with support, it's important to look at the underlying issues, and really the topic I'm looking forward to with Monica today is finding meaning. So we're so glad you're with us today. Please like, share. We're on all of the platforms for podcasts and social media. You can find us out there either with the Recovery Crew. Or at Deep Waters Recovery. Both of those. We are, the video version of this is on YouTube as the Recovery Crew at Deep Waters Recovery. All right, so we're so glad you're with us today. Let's have a good conversation with Monica. You're in the deep waters now here at the Recovery Crew. Well, yep, it is. It is Monica LeBansky. She is finally here. I've been wanting to get you on this show for a long time. This is a person that has a lot of cool stuff about her that you're going to find out, but she's a master facilitator of a particular kind of yoga that I'm not doing and I feel guilty about. But she's also a social media master person. She's just a cool person. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, Monica.
Hey, Doc.
So Monica is from Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is one of those places with a lot of paradox. I think there's a lot of rednecks, but there's also conscious people up there, I'm told. A lot of experiential psychology kind of, I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of it started up in Milwaukee, in that area of the world. But that's all I know about Wisconsin. And then you screwed up beautifully at UNT, University of North Texas, if I read your bio right. And then lots of tries at sobriety. In 2013, you wound up at one of the treatment centers. And I'm just going to say it. BRC is what it's called now. It actually has the best through line to a guy that really started a movement of recovery that is the most successful, a guy named Mark Houston. He's gone now, but his legacy is alive and well. And I think a lot of people are using some of that work in a mature way that he may or may not like. He's a little rough-edged. I don't know if you were around there when he was there or not, but you certainly got some of the legacy. So I'll just say Monica has the real deal recovery, even though she and I were talking about the fact that neither of us are doing it perfectly. Uh, but at least today I'm sober in this moment. All right. So, and she's an accomplished yoga instructor and social media whiz, and I'll let you talk more about that a little later on. But welcome here, and I really am glad you're on the show, and maybe you could just tell your story in whatever way it comes out today, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super grateful and nervous to be here, so it makes for an interesting combination. But you kind of touched on it. I also don't know much about Wisconsin because I moved here when I was like 1. So, your guess is as good as mine. I know that it's cold and that it's hot here. So, I think as far as my story goes, I mean, I think all of our stories are so similar in kind of the trajectory of what happens. But yeah, I would say this. My dad is in recovery. He's been sober for 31 years now. So he actually got sober when my mom got pregnant with me. And I do, like, as much as I don't say this to like place any type of blame, or because I know my mom felt that way for a long time, but it is very prevalent in my family on both sides. Out of my dad's siblings, like all of them are in AA and one is dead. So I definitely think that gave me a little bit of a propensity to, become what I became. But
well, that's documented. It's genetic. The disease is genetic. You don't have to apologize for that.
Oh, good.
That's what we'll find some other things to apologize for. We're good at that. But yes. So Dad's in recovery. I did not know that piece. Wow, that's a bonus.
Yeah. So I think there was something lingering, under the surface that I very quickly uncovered. And that just started like any other kid, like I had some fears, some anxieties. I was kind of smart and kind of weird. So I just had this kind of social like thing going on. And in high school, I found drinking, I found smoking pot, and it worked, like it really worked for me. Yeah. It just, I'll never forget, like, that was the answer. That was the answer to all of my problems. And it didn't matter what it was, alcohol, yada, yada, yada. Alcohol was my favorite, but it didn't matter what it was, just, it was my solution, and I think that's what really clicked for me at that, hopefully, knock on wood, final treatment center, was that it's not my problem. It was the solution to everything that I felt was, inept and wrong and not good enough within me. And it just made me, whether it made me better or made me not give a F, about those things anymore, like it really worked for me. So I chased that, to oblivion. And it got really hairy and like really dark super fast. Before I was legally allowed to drink, I was in my first like long-term inpatient treatment center. And I was there for 5+ months and went into sober living and did all the things. But I was still milking, like getting medications for various, like, I have so much anxiety and I have so much depression and I just want something to take the edge off. And I wasn't looking to heal. I was looking to still replace those feelings within me with whatever they thought was better than alcohol. And it didn't work. And I did that a few more times and things got hairier and darker. A lot of other substances were involved. I mean, I don't know how much you want me to go into the nitty gritty, but by the end of it, I was dating a man twice my age. We were living in a storage unit in South Austin. We were doing meth all the time. I was peeing myself all the time, like it was just like a weird, like dark way to live. But I also felt like there was no, like, what other way is there? Like now that I'm so reliant on these things, it's killing me, but it's the only thing that makes my life tolerable at the same time. So I was just in this really crappy, I don't know if I can cuss or not. I was in this really crappy place where,
well, we just had the guy that was in here before you. We've blown that resistance out of the water. So we now have a precedent.
Okay.
But
Lots of cussing.
But thank you for giving us that, for having the courage to tell us what approaching bottom really looks like. Because, I've only known you in sobriety. Are you kidding? Who is she talking about? So that's how right? My explosions were wanting to kill myself because she left me for the 8th time after I pushed her away for 8 times. And then I couldn't get enough drugs or anything to knock back the pain. I mean, we all have our story that one of the things in the program we say is we don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. And I'm telling you, I hope somebody's listening to that story right now that doesn't know that because you were just doing this, that doesn't know that you can actually let go and ask for help. There is another solution, right?
Yeah, I think it's hard to, I mean, I felt angry, like when I was approached with a solution. I needed it, but even when I went to the last treatment center I went to, I don't think I wanted it. Again, like once again, when I went to Benchmark, if we can say it, I didn't know that I wanted to get sober. Like I knew that things had to change in some way, but I just thought maybe like no more whiskey or like no more meth and like just beer or like I don't know.
Just make some little adjustment. It'll do it. Making up our own recovery program, right?
Yeah, I thought I had done it and it didn't work, even though like maybe I had picked up a big book, maybe I had considered like steps 1 through 3. I still didn't realize, what the heck. It was so foreign to me, the language, like no one had really explained to me like what, I just thought like this doesn't apply to me. I can't relate to this, and it's funny looking back after it was explained to me that like everything is a perfect like mirror image of my experience. But I just couldn't see it or didn't want to see it or wasn't ready or,
It's amazing how that works. It's like I've been around a long time, and this book, I can't believe that only like 4 years ago did I realize that there is a line in this book that says we absolutely insist on enjoying life. I carefully avoided that. The part of me that wants to make it, this program is about misery and doing good. You got to make yourself be good. And I've still got that. It's not about being good. Are you kidding? My life is like a blast and I'm completely irreverent and I'm not moral. They don't want to, the program is not trying to whip me into being moral or it's just, hey, let's stop medicating your chemistry so you can like actually experience this life, which is pretty short.
Yeah.
It was almost over very early for both. Well, it was almost over when you were, I didn't get to almost dead until I was 35. But
yeah.
But anyway,
so about 10 years on you.
Yeah, so they presented the solution. Are we still in one of the unsuccessful treatment episodes, or are we on to the successful one?
Let's go to the successful one. That's the good stuff, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not trying to rush you through it. I was just asking. I wanted to know where we are in the Monica LeBansky story.
I'm gonna let my dog out.
Okay.
I know this is super unprofessional, but there you go.
Yeah. It's like we let go of professionals so long ago in this program.
Yeah, so the successful one, man, what a journey. I know we discussed in the blog prior to this that I would describe my spiritual experience as more of the educational variety, and it's really because like I can't pinpoint like a moment where things changed. And I know like for my partner, he's like, yeah, I remember the moment when like the clouds parted and I had a psychic experience and a psychic change and things were forever different. And I can't pinpoint that. I don't remember that type of experience, I just remember like little things about going through my days, you know, in this program. And at first, like a good example is when I first was convinced to go to this program, I didn't want to stay for the 90 days. I ended up staying for 120. I was like, I'll do 30 days. I'm sure as hell not doing sober living because I hate sober living, and it's, you know, the place where like dreams and joy like go to die. I'm not doing that. And I had like all these demands, you know, and like through the process of this, like I spent almost a year in sober living after doing 4 months in inpatient treatment. They had to kick me out of sober living. Like, you have to go, like, live your life, you know, and some, like at some point, like all of these things started to change for me. Like I wanted direction. I desperately wanted direction. I wanted someone to make, you know, these decisions for me, because I realized that like I can't do it. I can't be trusted.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. Are you saying that 30 days and some like nice therapists and a couple of suggestions to get to a few 12-step meetings, are you telling me that that's not enough?
Yeah, I mean, I had hoped that it was, you know, because 30 days.
That's a lot. Are you kidding? People have to like not go to work for a whole month and not take care of other people for a whole month and not, isn't 30 days should be sufficient. So I'm being sarcastic, but you and I both know, been around this long enough to know that when you have an ingrained something that digs deep down into the soul, this cunning, baffling, and powerful disease, which transforms. You know, there's a guy named David Shern. He's a Jungian analyst in New Orleans that makes a really good pitch for evil. that when we were in our addiction, the things that we did, I don't know, they look more like evil than anything I know of. I mean, and it takes more than just a therapist saying, hey, it'd be better if you did, let's do some cognitive reframing. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it takes what it takes, Monica. So it's a really good point. So a year, I guess a year, 120 days in and a year in sober living is what, few people are able to let themselves have that. So.
I mean, I think I was lucky enough and unlucky enough that like I didn't have anything else, you know, like there was no like family to, you know, that was dying to have me back. Like my family could care less how long, like stay forever, you know, is really where they were at. I had no job. I had no, you know, significant other besides the old meth guy, you know. But I just,
I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but you say such important stuff, and it's but you'd had somebody in your family that understood the disease, right? And because people that don't understand the disease, it's like, well, you know, they want to get you back out of there and living your life. But if, you know, you had some people that understand that the longer she can stay in this thing, the better chance she's got. Am I right on that?
Totally. I think it took a few tries for my parents to get there, just as it took me a few tries, you know, but by the end of this thing, like they were not playing anymore, you know, like if they could have locked me up in like an insane asylum and just let me live out my days there, like they would have felt safer about it, you know, than what was currently. So, I mean, I bet they were the best like parent clients that Benchmark ever had, because anything they say, whatever you guys want to do, like just do it. Like we're done. We don't know, you know, what else to do.
Well, it looks like you made it.
I mean, I don't want to like count my chickens before they've hatched or whatever, but whatever the saying is, but it's, I mean, I'm coming up on 8 years, which just blows. I've almost been sober longer than I used and drank, you know, so it's pretty wild. I can definitely like safely say that like the obsession has been removed. Like I still go through like a lot of the same fears, insecurities, anxieties, like all of these things that I think kind of pushed me
Mm.
towards seeking that solution before. But like, it's miraculous. Like the thought of that being the solution just doesn't
Yeah.
exist for me anymore, which is like totally, it's not of my doing, you
Mm.
know, because that was my only solution. That was the only idea that I ever had to solve anything, you know, and now it's just not there.
Yeah.
Um,
That's an interesting. I like the way you said that the obsession has been removed. It's very different than the addiction has been removed. Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, I'm very clear that I can see it. Like I can see the addiction alive in me just in the way that I do other things. Like they're so crazy, you know, like the way I practice yoga, the way I eat, the way I, you know, do anything. Like I can see it there, you know, just kind of guiding like my behaviors. It just looks a little bit less reckless these days because the
Yeah.
substances are gone, you know, but my nails can tell you that I've still got some issues going on. Just
Yeah.
like,
Well,
ah.
I don't want to talk about that.
Did I
Yeah.
hit the sore spot, Bob?
And I don't want to talk about cigars either. All right.
Okay.
But I will say, and maybe this is a good little place to transition and maybe poking around at some other topics. But you did mention yoga, and that's where I met Monica. Very unique. It's a unique, particular kind of yoga that you may talk about, but I think it does attract a certain amount of addicts because it's a little bit like climbing Mount Everest, as opposed to just kind of. Well, I'm not going to talk. I'll let you. I'll let you talk about this particular kind of yoga that can become another replacement obsession. It did for a while, and now I'm like shaming myself a little bit because I'm not doing the practice, and I miss it. My body misses it. It's a self-care thing for sure, but we can turn anything into an excessive project, and I bet you've had that experience with that. But anyway, that's I know that it's a huge part of your life, so I want you to at least just talk a little bit about that. How that's been a part of your. I don't know if we could call it aftercare, or yoga's not going to cure any addictions, but it is certainly a way to keep ourselves. You and I are going to get high somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm going to find something, and it's either going to be authentic or it's going to be counterfeit. And I'm really good at finding the counterfeit versions. Finding the more authentic versions is what we're up to these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I have a lot of thoughts on this subject in particular, but I think a lot of them have actually changed since the current state of the world, where my beloved yoga practice was, ripped from my prying hands, when COVID all started. And I definitely, like, as much work as I had done to like convince myself that, okay, yoga is just a tool, it's a great tool to have in your tool belt, but it's not everything. But I think part of me still kind of believe that because I just went religiously no matter what. Like the kind of messed up part is like I would be sitting in a meeting and thinking like, man, I wish I would have gone to yoga instead. And that's so like messed up because it's like, it feels good, it feels good. Whereas like, and it doesn't always feel good, as you know, Bob. I know you were mentioning the style
It doesn't
of
always
yoga.
feel good.
But I think this almost ties into the little blog I wrote that like, I think we're attracted to things we're good at, and I, for some reason, found that I was good at the yoga. And so it just was this, like, as much as it's supposed to remove, or separate you and your ego, like, I got so much validation and like accolades for being, bendy and all these things. And so it became like, I love the practice and it's taught me so much, but like you said, I can abuse anything. And I have certainly abused yoga, to where man, it was so many things for me. It tied into body image stuff. Like if it wasn't hot enough, if I wasn't sweating enough, like suddenly like I've got these sick, thoughts about my body, and like it went through all of these different, everything that's wrong with me, yoga touched, in different ways. And I'm super grateful for that. But what I was trying to say is, like, when the quarantine first started, I was a little nervous, like here I am, I've practiced, 5, 6, 7 days a week for 7 years, and suddenly like the studios are closed and good luck. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised with, like, you're okay, like you're okay. Like I didn't implode. I haven't completely lost my mind. I mean, I'm sure some of it is back there somewhere, but it's like it really reminds me that as long as the foundation of what I know I need to do, it may not be like as sexy and as exciting as the yoga practice, but the recovery foundation, like that's gonna tie me down, when these other things kind of come and go. It's like, God, I called my sponsor more. I reached out to my sponsees more. I'm on the Zoom meetings more. I'm talking to my partner about things that are going on. And it's like that temporary, like, I mean, I don't want to call it temporary because I love the practice and I think I'll do it forever, but it was a good experience to have that ripped away, and to see like what's left and what's really like keeping me grounded.
Yeah, because we can. You started that essay. You just verbalized out with we can find anything to get high on, right? Generally, maybe we're making better bad choices. I would say that a real a yoga practice is a much better choice than any of the stuff I was doing then. But I agree. Yeah, and you got to find something you love. And if it also happens to overlap with mindfulness and healing and the 11th step, which we'll talk about here in a minute, then one thing, when I was mildly obsessed about that particular kind of yoga, you remember we started a 12-step meeting right after it because I knew it would be a trick to get me in the room. And I was always in an altered state, in a 12-step meeting in a bit of an altered state, which I really like altered states.
Yeah, same.
But anyway, so
yeah.
So anyways, thanks for talking about that. I'm going to poke at a couple of topics. All right, you ready? Here's one that I remember you talking about this before when we were hanging out, but the imposter syndrome. What do you mean when you're talking about that?
I've had this, like my whole recovery, which I don't know what that's about. But my dog, man, is just stepping over cords and.
Let's see your dog. Can we get a look at this?
Stuart, you want to say hi?
Hey, good pup. Hey, good pup. I got a dog that looks a lot like that. Is that?
Do you?
Yes. I might show you in a minute. All right.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah, it's like I did. Me and a couple girlfriends of mine, we do a steel on steel every couple months. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Well, tell folks what steel on steel is.
Yeah, so it was the single most traumatizing thing that I remember from my last treatment center. But it's basically, I mean, my mind remembers it in a different way than what it really is. Like, oh, you sit in a chair and everyone screams at you, from like around you in a circle, which isn't exactly like what happened, but that's what it felt like.
Right. When you're living a life where you avoid feedback of any kind at all costs, when you get in a formal setting with some facilitation to get some honest feedback, it feels like screaming.
It so did. Yeah, that's still how I want to describe it to this day. But yeah, so basically, you know, you answer some questions about how you think you're showing up and how you think you're doing certain things or not doing them, and you just get feedback. You know, it's just feedback, and so I think I had a lot more to hide and to protect back then, which is why it felt so extreme. Like now, you know, we do steel on steels, me and a couple girlfriends, you know, every couple of months, and it's not like that. I think because I don't have as much attachment to my sickness and my secrets now. It's like, you know what, guys, like I haven't done a nightly in a week. Obviously you've seen because we send it to each other, you know, so it's, there's not, you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
You know,
Nightlies are just taking a look at ourselves in kind of a formal way to see how the day went and if we lived according to the way we want to live, right? Is that what you mean by nightlies?
yeah, exactly. And I know you had mentioned, you know, yoga as an 11th step alternative.
Right.
And I was kind of thinking about that in my mind, and it's like I still I get some intuitive thought, you know, and some inspiration when I practice yoga, but it's still a self-appraisal, you know,
Mm.
and the same thing could be said about the nightly, but I hope that I'm using the nightly in a perfect world, you know, to figure out, okay, what needs to be a 10-step call, you know, what needs to be corrective measures for the next day, you know, so it's what could happen in yoga, which is very, you know, mental, and it comes and it goes, and, you know, you kind of get high and you forget about it and whatever, you know, but like, you know, on a nightly, it's like, okay, hopefully like I can take this information about, you know, how was I selfish? How was I dishonest? You know, who did I potentially harm? Who needs an amends? And then take that tangibly, you know, into the next day, and hopefully get some real action from that.
Yeah.
You know, whereas sometimes it's like in yoga, like, oh, I shouldn't be that way. And then it just, and then it's just, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why the program is designed. There's 12 steps. Each one of them have actions attached to them. And if we do all those actions, we'll stay sober and actually be happy, joyous, and free. It's very simple. It is not easy though, you know, because there's two ways to do nightlies. It's like, okay, how'd I do? All right. And say a prayer. Okay, good. But to actually write down how I might have hurt someone, to take the time to do that, or did I take care of my recovery well today? I mean, these are the actions that's the difference between, in a lot of cases, going to a treatment center that does the real deal version to launch people into a program of action, not just a program of lip service. it's in a it changes everything. It's not just some kind of a workshop where we commit to being good. There's a practice about living healthy, right? And what winds up happening is we have less chaos bouncing around. Our relationships are calmer. We get to create the lives that we want to create because we're not putting out the fires of the chaos that we created, right? I mean, so, and none of us do it perfect, and just so that people that maybe are not don't have PhDs in recovery like Monica LeBansky. The 11th step is about developing more conscious contact with a higher power, which is a trick for saying getting out of your head and opening to the possibility that there's more than just what this brain has to offer me. This brain that got me in the trouble to begin with is probably not the best spiritual resource. So anyway, thanks for speaking to that. What about feelings? We don't want to talk about feelings here, do we? Probably like tolerating them, and we certainly don't want to talk about how that particular kind of yoga that you teach it teaches that. I'm going to say this. That's probably why I'm avoiding it, because it is built to take you just past what's comfortable and learning how to stay with that, which is a pretty good, that's what we do at Deep Waters, helping people tolerate emotions until they can become, and then the more we can tolerate them, the more we can integrate them into our life rather than trying to push them away. All right. That's a question. I think somewhere in there.
I will do my best to identify and answer the question. but yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I think this is kind of tying back to the whole imposter syndrome thing, is like, I haven't figured out like feelings, you know, I don't have the answer, because I still like, I have so many feelings all the time, and what's real and what's not real, and what's, you know, teachable, and what's just crazy, and, you know, like trying to figure that out. And I mean, let me gather myself here. I'm having a lot of feelings.
Yeah. I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I think we're all wired differently, but I always tend to go back to like a set of feelings that I just kind of carry with me throughout like every situation. And it's like, oh, like I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm worried, you know, I feel like people are thinking something about me, you know, that I think I can identify or control, but it's not even real, and who knows, and who cares. And yeah, I think that, I mean, I always go back to this like feelings aren't facts thing, and I know that's just kind of a slogan, but they feel like facts in the moment. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's hard for me to convince myself that what I'm feeling isn't real when it feels so real, you know. And I think that goes back again into the 11th step of like, do I need outside input? You know, like, do I need to talk to God? Do I need to talk to my sponsor? Do I need both? You know, usually. And it's like, how can I get some type of outside perspective on this feeling that feels so big and real? And sometimes it just takes someone saying like, have you thought about it this way? Or have you looked at it from this angle? Or have you realized that no one cares? Or like, you know, it's like, and sometimes I just need, you know, to be pulled out of it for a second to see it clearly, you know? And that's what I tell, you know, sponsees. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go for it.
Yeah, I think as you know, as I was convinced to sponsor, and as I try to convince sponsees to sponsor, you know, it's like I can't see my stuff because I'm so close to it, you know. And it's like, it's crazy how when you sponsor someone, you see the exact same situation, but you're not emotionally attached to them being right. So you can see, you know, clearly what's going on with them. And then, you know, hopefully sometimes that applies to your situation. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened where it's like, wow, I'm going through the exact same thing, but since I'm emotionally attached to mine, it's all fucked up. But since I don't really feel a lot of attachment to their scenario, you know, emotionally, I can see it for what it is.
Yeah, you can make a clearer comment on the situation because you're not. And here's the thing: you and I talked about how you've really turned your attention toward healing some of the deeper stuff these days, and that it's kind of what we do at Deep Waters. That's the we call it relapse prevention. It's kind of advanced with the main relapse prevention is the program. All right, do the program as designed with all, yes. And if you really want to find happy, joyous, and free, you're going to have to heal some of the underlying stuff, also known as trauma. And a lot of times this flare up of emotion, the anger, right? Or the overwhelming grief or the panic that you and I talked about. That's like, why am I panicked? Right? What is it? It's trauma, right? It's old stuff. So if we really want to have a better chance of staying sober, you know, we can use some of the tools of the program that say pause when agitated, right? In other words, just feel it. You don't have to go, you know, send that email right now. Just and then something will pass. That is a great tool. Pause when agitated. There's lots of little tricks to keep us from blowing the world up again. But I don't know if you agree with this or not, but a lot of that overwhelm is about trauma, unresolved trauma. And I think we're giving ourselves a huge, better chance of having some more freedom if we heal that old stuff. And that old stuff does not cause the addiction. We say that a lot around here because that's a misnomer. If I say, why do I drink like this? Well, because of my childhood. Yeah, that's not useful. That is not useful. What a more useful thing is, why do I drink? Well, you're alcoholic. Get to the program. Do what you. And if you want to have a real good chance of staying sober, heal some of the trauma. I think I've talked long enough now. There might have been another question in there too. I don't know.
I mean, I think all I can really say about that is that I'm getting to a point in my own recovery where I just I feel like there's some things that haven't quite been addressed, and it's probably my fault, but it's I think the 12 steps have taught me so much about how to show up in this world. How to be a helpful and like considerate and like a functioning person, even when I don't feel that way inside.
Yeah.
But I think what maybe should happen now is like, well, why don't I feel that way inside? And it's like, and I don't know if that's, my holes in my own recovery program, or I'm not sponsoring enough, or whatever, but it also could be, like that there's some unresolved stuff in there. And I think same with the yoga, like why not try the tools that are available? It's like an extra tool probably doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I always liked about you is I think I call it, it looks like humility to me. Like I know what humility is. I love meetings that we go to and everybody is espousing how much they know about humility. It's like, doesn't it? My dad used to say the only thing you lose once you know you have it is humility. But I think I know what it is because I read it in the literature. It has something to do with awareness of ourselves, and maybe I know about the good stuff and some of the character defects, and that the more awareness of myself I have, the more it might be called humility. You have that, Monica. I don't know, and you don't have to like you can just own that. I think I'll get some people to send emails that already know you. It's you've done a lot of work, man, and and it shows. And a lot of people get a lot from you. I know you're humble. You're not going to say it, but when I was taking yoga classes over there, I made sure if I possibly could get in one of your classes because there was more there than just this rote hammering away at there was a sense of healing in the way that you work. I think I couldn't see it in you if I didn't have some of it myself. I mean, that's the Braveheart experience and the other weekends, the deep water intensive, and the other places where I do this facilitation stuff that has a little bit of theater in it. I'm a little bit of a theater guy. We got to find ways to bring this healing, this 12th step, which is the thing that makes the 12-step recovery the most unique than anything else, any other aspect of 12-step recovery is one person helps another person heal. Person that's been there can help another person heal. And that's the thing. As we serve the world, right, we have to find things that also light us up. We can't be doing like if I had to lead yoga, I don't think it's not my thing. I wouldn't. That's not the place of service that would keep me interested. But you found that bell, that ding, and we both have kind of found areas where we can bring healing to the world and also have meaning for ourselves. That's we just say a little bit about, and neither of us have done any of this perfectly. So if you would just say a couple of things about finding meaning, a meaningful way to bring your creativity and gifts to the world, and how we maybe don't have to do any of it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that everything I do now, like I was led to do, like I didn't give a crap about yoga. I didn't, like none of those things, so it's just interesting how things have unfolded. And I feel like to very little of my own, designing and planning. Which is great, because we saw what my life looked like on my designing and planning was just a lot of urine and like, like whatever. So it's
I've often thought that the best way for the world to heal would be everyone be required to wear a small a hat that has a video playing on it of the worst shit that they ever did. Don't you think that would like bring everybody down closer
really
to
level the playing field there. Yeah. Yeah, it's but and it's funny because of these, anxieties and social things that I think I have or whatever, teaching yoga, like being, on a podium in front of a group of people is like my worst nightmare. Like that's not something that I enjoy the thought of doing, and still to this day, like I've acclimated to it and I've seen I've done it enough, like practice like I've done it enough to feel good about it sometimes, like I still have those moments where it's like, man, I'm still thinking about that one thing I said in class, 2 weeks ago to that one person, and I just can't, let it go. But it's like something about it like really feels right, like when it feels right, like it feels so right,
yeah.
And I don't know like why it's the last thing I would have pegged, as my career and what I do, but I do find like very real connections with people from that place. And it's cool because like you said, that practice attracts a lot of addicts and alcoholics, but one cool thing I've seen is that like normal people, they've got problems too, and it's like we're all there because something's screwy, and it's like we're seeking some type of healing or relief or distraction or whatever it is. But it's been really cool to like connect with normal people too, and like I used to think like, oh, normal people are so normal, but they're not, it just their symptoms just look different than mine did.
You're so humble. It's like it's a little bit nauseating sometimes. I'm just kidding, but because I'm a little less forgiving than or less. I'm more judgmental than you. It's like normal. There's no normal. Are you kidding me? They're all a mess, just like you and me. You and I happen to find the right drug that took us down quick. The whole world is depending on stuff to try to medicate themselves and to heal the trauma. And we're all a big, beautiful mess. I don't know. I guess there's, when we're talking about whether one's alcoholic or not, I suppose it's normal and alcoholic. I get that. But I think we are I think we're at a time when actually my daughter is a Z. What is it? Generation Z. And I just did a weekend, a men's weekend with about 20 of those guys right around that age, 18 to 22. I don't know if you're noticing, but it seems like they've had enough of this shit that my generation, maybe not yours, has created. And there's a certain kind of depth of understanding and wisdom. And I think we're in for a big shift here around not being run by our trauma anymore, not taking that shit anymore. Wait a minute. No, I'm going to live the life I want to live, not the one that my negative messages that I've been carrying have been leading me around. So, all right, don't get me started.
What's their secret?
Yes, exactly. Well, it's the same secret that you and I have. We got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I think they are in a generation where they have absolutely had enough of the bullshit. The bullshit has piled up so high right now that it's a bottom. But that's just my theory that I probably won't do another dissertation on. But I get to have a bunch of theories. I'm a theorist, probably a conspiracy theorist. All right. Anyway, all right. I think we're getting there, Monica. I think we almost solved every last problem in the universe here. But I don't know. I had a blast with you. You are just a good person who's doing your work in the world, and maybe here, actually, let me read this thing that you wrote in your blog. I really like this. Okay. Because we don't, anybody that's listening, that, you know, just really is kind of on your own back and like thinking that, thinking that you can't like change or feel stuck, you know, like we all do at some different time. But anyway, maybe you can't hear it from me, but maybe you can hear it from somebody like Monica. Here, listen, we can have doubts and still take the action regardless and experience the goodness and abundance that our Creator wants for all of us. I like the beginning of it. We can have doubts. You don't have to be sure about anything. Let's stop being so sure. So anyway, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you. It sounded way better out of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's several things. So make sure you pull up Monica's blog that'll come out a few days after this podcast, because there's a bunch of jewels in there. So yoga, I'm calling you yoga. Monica, I want you to talk about the yoga practice a little bit, how people can find their way to it if they want to. She's very busy, so I'm trying to get her to do some stuff for social media. But they have space. Santosha Solutions is her company, and they're a social media and marketing outfit. You can say something about that. But anyway, say whatever you want to say and let people know how they can reach you, please.
Yeah, so obviously everything's a little weird right now with COVID and stuff like that. But I think the best way, if you're interested in yoga, is Pure Action is actually how I got started. It's the nonprofit. And up until a few months ago, I was going out to the treatment centers and teaching yoga. And that's how I was introduced to yoga, was in treatment. And so they do a lot of really cool outreach work like that, but it's just kind of been on pause for right now. But that is PURE, pureaction.org. And then, yeah, I dabble in some of the social media world. So if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired of Instagram, then I will be sick and tired of it for you. So yeah, I think that's my spiel.
Yep. And I've said, and what is that website? Santosha?
Santoshasolutions.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's go ahead.
And I've sent a few people to Monica Women, you know, in 12-step in recovery, you know, the guys help the guys, the girls help the girls to keep that stuff, like, it just works better like that. So I also know that Monica can help any women who are ready to do the deal. And I think they can find you through that website, probably, right? Or
yeah.
I'll tell you what. Reach out to us here at Deep Waters, and I will connect you with Monica. If you're wanting somebody that's in recovery.
That would be amazing.
All right. And I think we are almost there. I want to get, hopefully, Nicole, are you still with us? Nicole is our, program manager of Deep Waters Recovery Programs, and she picks up all the stuff that falls off the wagon behind us here. I'm very grateful. She's also a really good therapist. And as soon as we can get some other help here, we're going to get her back on doing what she does best. But for now, would you mind speaking to how people can get a hold of us in terms of the podcast, but also for Deep Waters recovery programs?
Yes, absolutely. For the podcast or our programs, our number is 512-677-7847. That's 512-677-7847. Or email us at admin@deepwatersrecovery.com. If you have any questions about our program, comments, or if you want to be part of the podcast, please reach out. Our website is deepwatersrecovery.com. We post weekly blogs from our community. Our podcast comes out weekly, and follow us on all the social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Our YouTube channel is The Recovery Crew. You can find us on there. And again, just in case you didn't hear it the first time, 512-677-7847.
Nice. Thank you. What's the best? So people following, is that the best thing, Monica? We should have people follow or subscribe, or what's the main?
It kind of depends on the platform.
Okay.
But yeah, subscribe YouTube, follow Instagram, like and follow Facebook.
Somebody taking notes. Is somebody taking notes? All right. So anyway, so cool to have you here. Thank you for telling your story and giving us a little insight on how to live well. All right. So thanks, folks, for joining us here on the Recovery Crew. And you're in the deep waters now.